Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Her Space Unscripted. As always, I'm your host, Angela, and if you're looking for a space to just show up, be you, be celebrated, maybe even share some struggles, you found your space. So come take up some space with me. Today, I am so excited to have a woman that has become a friend of mine over the last year, and when I met her, I was just so inspired, and I know you will be too. So without further ado, Miss Kasanda.
Hi.
Welcome to Her Space.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Thank you for coming.
Sure.
You're another one of those ones that I'm like, you asked about my podcast. I'm like, so when are you coming?
I was like, oh, I really did ask to just to be on. But
yes.
I was really interested because I've been seeing it.
I know, exactly. That's how I'm like, everyone's like, oh, I watch your podcast. I'm like, that's my in.
Exactly.
That's
good strategy.
I gotta push the amazing women to show up in the spaces that I know other women would love to see you at.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do it.
Yay.
Yeah.
So let's start with just, what are the many hats Kasanda wears? Because I know you, but of course the viewers might not. So what are the many hats of Miss Kasanda?
Many hats. Well, I am a mom, a wife, a entrepreneur. I just started a business recently, which has been really interesting. I'm a social worker and a former city councilor, mayor pro tem, and that's kind of how you and I met, was sort of in those circles. I remember being on the dais and having you come and present to council about childcare and all the things that I felt were really that I thought were really important for people to know, and sort of moving council from not just doing infrastructure, but also having a hand in social service.
Yeah.
Many social service agencies and such. So it was really exciting to have that kind of money through the federal government to be able then to build, I think, build up capacity in that arena for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's funny because I just had a meeting on that project this morning.
Really?
It's going great.
Okay,
you'll be excited. I'll share everything with you.
Cool.
But yes, no. So since then, like I said, we've had the opportunity to speak, more as friends. And so I've learned a lot. You're a mommy and a wife, right? And I think a lot of us are in those spaces where we're mommies, where, have significant others, or in my case, trying to figure that out. You started a business. And so one of the main things we talk about is like balance or lack thereof in my case. But,
No.
how does that work for you?
A good chunk of my 20s to 40s, I was a single mom, raising two kiddos. I had an active ex-husband. So, I always worked and I never imagined not. But I became a single parent. I was a year and a half towards graduating with my undergrad in social work.
Yeah. So you were a mama early.
I was a mama early in my 20s. Yeah. And that was a really hard place to be, because I hid the pregnancy. No one knew that I was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
I never got really big in my pregnancies.
Girl, I wish. I carried your weight for you, I guess.
Well, and I think there was just a lot of shame and guilt, and being a single mom and having to disclose to your parents, right? That was really hard. But yeah, I've been there. I understand.
And then you come from a small town.
I do.
So there's like that small town, stigma, I guess you would call it, around, oh, That's
Yeah,
hard.
my mom was a devout or is a devout Catholic, and so
Yeah.
all those things
Play a role in it.
all the narrative, right? That you sort of as a Latina, are raised in and with, and so
And swear that's never going to be you until one day you wake
yeah.
up.
I mean, there
right?
was never any doubt or question. My parents always raised, I'm the oldest of three, and raised us like we were going to college. There was just no questions and doubt. And my sister and all of us went to college and have degrees and whatnot. So it was never a doubt, right? But my parents were very strict, and I didn't have a lot of freedom, I think. And then, I like many who come, from a small community to the big city.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. It's different.
Yeah, it's very different. So you start having all this freedom. You're making choices, and sometimes good choices, sometimes bad choices. I mean, through it all, I graduated, so yay.
Well, yay.
Yeah.
So, yay.
Yeah.
Because I won't lie, it took me, I became a single mom at 22, right? And I literally just barely graduated in 2020.
Yay.
Yes, I never quit.
It's never too late.
Yes, and I take pride in that still, very much so.
Yeah.
But for you to actually graduate on time, how was that?
Yeah, well, it was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard because I had my son, and I left my son with my parents. It was like, we're just going to...
That's hard.
My parents were like, you're a semester. You need to do it.
Yeah.
You need, or a year, really. And you need to complete it. And so I would go back and forth from Cruces to Baird.
Oh, wow. And that's quite a drive because it's
2 hours.
2 hours, right? Yeah.
About an hour and a half to 2 hours. Yeah. So
Well,
that piece
speaks
was
to
hard.
your commitment, though, and that speaks to everything I feel I know about you as a woman. Just how committed and how like I'm gonna do this shit. Like I was like you were gonna do it.
They're just.
I mean,
like
regardless.
I said, there was not a doubt, and my parents were like, "You're gonna do it. We're gonna help you," and that came with its own set of very grateful, but also issues, right? But I did it, and I knew that I had to have something to fall back on, and support my son.
Yeah.
And because I was so close and had a supportive family, even in spite of, the upset that it created.
Yeah, because it definitely wasn't the plan, right?
No.
Like, because I have a teenage daughter now, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking a lot about like, baby girl, life's plan is not what we think it's going to be. Like, we can plan all day, and we have this vision, and you absolutely should.
Yeah.
But giving grace and being ready for what's going to,
Whatever is gonna come.
happen.
Yeah.
Because it's never quite what we thought it was.
And I absolutely. I think it's important that, we teach our children to, be able to make decisions, right or wrong, know that there's consequences, right, to everything, good and bad.
Yeah.
But I learned some very valuable lessons, right? And I always share this. I don't share it often enough, but I'm starting to be super vulnerable about sort of the lessons and the situations and experiences, right? So I know what it's like to have postpartum, and be in this funk and depressed. And I had my son in the summer, so I remember driving to Silver City, and going to the welfare office, right? Welfare office, and I had applied for. Then it's TANF now, the AFDC.
Oh my gosh, the fact that you remember that.
Independent children and food stamps, and I remember just feeling so down in the dumps, and like the sun, and in the morning you're traveling, and it was just like, man, what am I going to do? What if it doesn't work out? How are we going to do this, right? And I've always been a hard worker. I always had summer jobs and whatnot, and that was no different. I was working at JCPenney's as a summer job to raise money, but and I was just mortified.
Yeah.
And I walk in, and it's like a room full of people you don't know, and I was like, And some people like, please don't let me know anybody, right? And so, of course, the worker very much knew my family. And so, but he was very kind.
Yeah.
He was very kind, and he was helpful. I didn't qualify for AFDC at the time, but I had food stamps. And so, a little bit helps, but my parents were like, no, if you don't qualify, we're going to make it work, and we're going to help you, and we're going to see this through. And so I know the feeling, especially now that has been so, that particular thing, right? Subsidies and things of that sort have been very villainized.
Yeah.
And, so I know firsthand what it's
But it helped
like.
you when you needed it, right? And then look, I mean, it helped you when you needed it. You were a brand new mama, trying to figure it out, still finished college, and you did.
I did.
Those resources helped you through that time in your life.
Yeah.
You were able to graduate, and then...
And I went home. I went back home and spent 2 years working at CYFD Protective Services, and that's sort of how I got my start. Transferred over to the Las Cruces office, spent a few more years, and then went to the health department and spent 10 years there, sort of in providing case management for children who had and their families who had chronic medical conditions.
Okay.
And then I went to Border Health and sort of got a lot of experience in management and whatever, and then a great opportunity arose. I never thought I'd go back to CYFD, and an administrative position came up, and I applied and got an interview, and I was offered the position, so I went back in a more of an administrative. But I do want to say it, college isn't for everybody.
Facts.
Right? College isn't for everybody, but in this day and age, you need like a skill. And there are so many programs out there that if you want to upskill, like someone like me, you could go to donate in the community college. There's all these 2-year certificates. There's so many things for people. So it may not college, and I don't want people to come up like, well, she's a college graduate, and there's no way that I can, but like,
Well, I'm living proof that you still can.
You can.
Right? And it's not the know-all tell-all, like you just said. A lot of my success I achieved before I ever even graduated with my degree.
Sure.
My degree is actually in social work as well.
It is.
It
I
is.
didn't know that.
It is.
Okay.
My degree's in social work as well. Originally, the plan was, way back when I started, was I was going to work with wounded vets and their families, because that was a lot of my history, from when I was young. Of course, life. You find your passions and you find your, paths in different directions.
Yeah.
But social work still very much applies to everything I do.
Sure.
So I was like, I'm going to stick with it and get my degree in social work. So that is what mine is into.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
Which is
So,
awesome.
but like you said, a lot of my success and my path and my journey was before I even had my degree.
Yeah.
I was able to get in and build my own knowledge and my own skills, and find different trainings or find different spaces to learn what I was trying to learn, particularly around business, because I didn't know crap about business, and here I am running my own businesses, right? So
Which is amazing.
Well, you just said too, you just started your own business. Tell me about that.
I did. I ran for office for the mayoralship and lost, and I was like, and I had already, when I ran the first time, 8 or 9, it's going on 10 years now. Wow. I had enough time to retire.
Okay.
And so that for me was like, okay.
So you retired from CYFD and then ran for city council. Okay.
I ran and I was still working.
I bet that was fun.
It was really interesting and hard, and the whole thing. And as it got closer, I took some time off and just focus on the campaign. But yeah, I I decided, like, what are you doing? Like, I had always prepared people, like, you want to work yourself out of a job, and I was very big on training people up to be ready, right, for their next steps as I was, because, man, I loved working there. I thought I made a difference. We made a difference. But I was feeling like I was doing a disservice to the city, disservice to, the arena I was at, and I was like, you've prepared everybody for this, and it's time to step back, step away. And so I retired, and I did
go on your next adventure.
Yeah, the next city council, the next thing, which was city council. And so I ran for 2 terms, and then decided I wanted to try my hat as a mayor. And when I lost, I was devastated. But I learned a lot about myself. I took some time, and a lot of my love language is, like, I love to cook. So I spent a lot of time in the kitchen making all my faves, all the wonderful,
the feel-good food.
All the feel-good foods. Yeah. And then the holidays came, and so I was really able to. But at the time, in my head, and I do a lot of things, I could get really heady, so I do a lot of things up here. I'm not very good at writing things down, and I wish I was.
Yeah.
People say journaling and all this. I'm up here. I have to think of it in my head, and then I'll say it, and then when you say it out loud,
that part.
It
I'm the
something.
same way. I am the same way. Oh my gosh, I've never heard someone say that they do the same thing. Yeah. I journal from time to time when it's super, super heavy, and even when it comes out, it's not making sense. Then I will. Yeah. But for the most part, it all goes here, right? And then I literally talk to myself, and I know that sounds wild, but I've never heard someone else say they do it. No. But that's how it processes for me. When I hear myself say what's in my head, I'm like, girl, that's stupid. Why are you even thinking that? That didn't even sound right coming out of your mouth. But in my head, it made sense, right? But as soon as I'm able to process out loud, that's why I love therapy. That's why I love therapy.
Yeah, so
therapy is my space, right? It's the one space I know that I can go and say everything out loud, and process through it and figure that out, because I'm the same way. Yeah. I can't journal. It goes on up here, and then it has to come out of my mouth for it to make sense.
For good, bad, or indifferent, right? Because you have a lot of that stuff. And I always, in my younger years, I had a lot of idle chatter. A lot of chatter. And I would do some of my best thinking, walking or running. I was a runner at one time. But yeah, I just thought, I have to do something. You're too young. There's a lot of work to be done in the city still. Yeah. I had created a few things a collective impact group that works on addressing adverse childhood experiences, and our suicide prevention task force. Yes. And those were things I still kept.
Yes.
And so I really utilized and believed in the things we were doing there. And so I really pivoted quickly, but also I wanted to do some the plan was always to get my master's, which I did later.
Congratulations.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I have my master's, and in 2013, and that happened. I will say, for those of you that are, your kiddos are growing up and leaving the house, empty nest is for real.
Yeah.
And
I've been hearing that a lot lately. A lot of the Pivot with Purpose women that applied are experiencing that right now. That transition from being, my entire life was my kids, everything, my purpose, everything I did, everything I was, my kids. Yeah. And now I have, they're their own little adults, right? Yeah. You're always a mommy. I will, but the role does transition and change,
sure.
So that's when you got your master's?
So I got my master's when my son went into the Navy. And I saw Elena at the house, but since her father and I were divorced, we split our time, obviously. And so, there was time when I was by myself.
Yeah.
And those were hard. So I was you better be busy, girl.
You got to find something to do.
So I pivoted to school, because I wanted to be a consultant. And so I needed my master's for that. So went back and got my degree in part-time in 3 years. And so as I'm thinking about this
Can you say that though? Again?
Yeah.
Part-time in 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay, because I think that's so important to hear.
Yeah.
Because everyone is
I got to do it in a
stuck
year.
on this. Yes,
Yeah,
like
or
stuck on this.
whatever.
I don't have the time. And if I don't make it happen this year, then it's not worth doing. And it's like, no, like you can find the time, even if it takes 3 years. You were progressively getting there.
Yeah.
Every semester, you were getting a little closer and a little closer, and until you got it.
Yeah. 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 Had great support because I was still working.
Yeah.
Still working.
Yeah.
It was just obviously before running for office was even a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But as a reason why I think I always felt like, growing up, that things sort of just fell in my lap, or you realize that, yeah, you're on the right track. Like God is telling you that, yes, this is the thing I would have, like, show me, just show me the way, and I will follow. And so when that happened, when I went back to get my master's, we're required to do internships. It's like, it's changed the number of hours, but like, I think it was like 275 hours on top of
Working
schoolwork
full-time
and all the things, right? And so I knew, because
And still being a mom, because I mean, you still did have your daughter.
I had my daughter, and then my son, and the worry about being in the Navy, and some of his ship going to war, and all the things, and that was a really hard time. Although I learned a lot, and when you're a Navy mom, you're a Navy mom, right? And so I remember times when I would be looking at the there was this Navy Moms Club, or looking at pictures and thinking, can I see it? Do I see his ship, the NASA? All those things, and so that piece was a interesting space to be in.
It's like you had time-ish.
I did, yeah.
So time-ish.
I
mean,
yeah.
So it still was not easy.
I was an early riser, so I would do all my work and reading in the morning.
Okay.
And do the best that you could under the circumstances, right? And then by the evening time, if you had to do I had a class in the evening, right? And then you'd be wiped out. But it would be like that. It would just
for 3 years.
And so I went in because I had an administrative position. I went to El Paso to actually apply for an internship position, and as I did that, things didn't go very well with the person, and so I called my coordinator and I said, well, that didn't go well. It was like a therapeutic like an agency who provided therapy, and it was something I had not ever done, but wanted to have maybe some experience. And but the interview didn't go well. She didn't like me from the very beginning. She had me sitting. She had me sitting there waiting for an interview. So I knew as soon as she walked in and looked at me, this isn't going to go well. One of those things.
Yeah.
Is like, whatever.
You feel
look
it.
Like
you feel it.
Look like somebody she may not have liked, whatever. So
you just felt that
I
this
just
was...
felt like it's not happening. And the interview, I was real excited and telling her, thinking I had all this experience to give and, provide and all that, but this was new to me. And I called my person and said, it's not going to happen. So I did an internship at Cafe. We did a minimum wage, and that was a micro practice, and I've always been very interested in macro practice and systems and how they work and all the gaps and barriers, and so I did it there, and then I was involved in a minimum wage campaign.
Okay.
And that's how I got my start into
politics.
So I've always felt, like I said, that because of choices I've made, these were things that I felt like fall into your lap, or like, if you don't do it, who's going to do it, kind of thing.
But let me ask you that, okay, because I feel very similar, because people ask me all the time, like, how did you end up where you're at? Girl, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be really honest. Like, I don't know. It just happened. But it doesn't just happen, right? It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of stuff. But it does feel like that, like once but there's also so much fear and anxiety, because I'm a firm believer that fear is the killer of all dreams, right? Because risk and investing in yourself and
doing all of that, it really does come with like this fear of the unknown, this fear of, did you feel that? And if you did, like, how did you push past that for all of that?
You know what? I guess there was fear. Like, I find it interesting when people, oh, you're fearless. Like this, people are fearless. Women, there are these, I'm like, how? Because all the time, most of the time I feel anxiety or fear about something, but I just press on.
Yes.
I do a lot of self-talk, and I'm like, I'm like, well, it could be hard, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it anyway, right? And you just find those people. I've always been blessed to have all these supportive people, supportive bosses, supportive friends, people. And in fact, when I went back to get my master's, I don't know that I would have done it, but I had a very good friend, Jolene, who was like, come on, girl. She had started her master's program, and she said, come on, you're going to do it. And so she was really kind of leading me. And it was sort of just, like I said, like it just happened, right? It was just like, but if it wasn't for her, I wonder sometimes
if you would have even done it.
The kind words, the helping hand, just the support that one needs, especially when you're in those spaces. In between all that, I had a breakup. I mean, all those things that like challenge women that could, like I belong to that Las Cruces Supermoms, and sometimes I'm so depressed about what some of the women are going through, breakups, domestic violence, all the things, right? And I feel so bad, or that balance. We talk about balance. I'm not even sure that I answered that. It's just sort of like, you just keep going, one foot in front of the other, no matter what, right? No matter what. And you just try to surround yourself with good people. There's so many people out there that want to help.
Yeah.
And
I think that is, right? Because I think that's one of the reasons why I've created this space and why I've tried to be that woman to so many people, because I actually didn't have a lot of that. So I had my circle, right? I did have my circle. Like I had my family. I had, I would say a few friends, but I really had like one friend. Still only have like one real solid, right, friend. And, but what I've learned is that it makes such a huge difference when a woman that, either knows you or doesn't know you, right? Or like just has belief in you, or like reminds you that you can, or supports you with a resource, or talks to you and reminds you, like, we all have our shit. We've all been there in some way or another, and you can. It may not feel like that right now. You may not believe that right now, but like the more someone starts believing that, I think it becomes true. The more that they can just continue, like you said, one step in front of the other and just start believing in themselves. Because I think that was it, right? Little things, right? Like it was little things like I wanted to do something, and then I just did it. Like I forced myself, I pushed through, like you said, and I did it. And then, so when the next thing came up, it was like, I didn't think I could do the last thing, and I did. So maybe, possibly, right?
I think like working at CYFD and the things that you encounter, unfortunately, sometimes you encounter very angry people that, people who have very little confidence, people have had tremendous trauma. I think it prepared me for city council, unfortunately, right? Because at being a woman on city council, at one point we had an all-women council, which was so exciting. We were like one of 4 or 5 in the nation. We got a lot of press for it.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. I felt like our decisions that we made, especially having another social worker on the council, was, I think, very much centered, rooted in love, kindness, wanting our people to grow and build, capacity, things that necessarily city hall isn't familiar with, right? Like what I mean is like embarking in social services, you know, starting the light team, you know, starting, you know, having more of a stake in, you know, people with mental illness and people who have substance abuse and addiction, and making resources more readily available. I always wanted to, wouldn't it be cool to have more, you know, agencies or businesses that had childcare in their setting? Like, gosh, wouldn't that have been just so, I remember, you know, who's going to help me as a single mom?
Your babies.
Because we were on call.
Yeah.
And we got calls. At night, the wee hours.
Oh, I
of
can't
the morning.
imagine.
And then she's like, "What are you going to do about that?" And so, like, we've always took care. Like I said, we had a great team. Always took care of each other. I think those things are super important. But yeah, I just think if we're doling out advice, I mean, you know, dream big. Don't be afraid. If you're not dreaming big, then you're not dreaming, right? And you know, we've had this conversation about dreams, and I don't know that I have felt things have happened because of choices I've made, good and bad. Things have sort of fallen into place. But I'm starting to think about these dreams, even at 50 something years old, 58, and not being afraid to transition into things, the unknown, whatever that looks like. So I'll maybe part 2, I will come and talk to you about what my dreams are, and you know, and not be afraid, like just push through no matter what.
Yes, no, I love that. And I love that, like you said, like, even though most people would be like, it's too late. It's too late to pivot. It's too late to do this. It really is never too late. It really is never too late, you know. And I think I have a lot of younger, you know, women that work with me. And so when I hear them, they're like, I'm already going to be 30, or I'm already 27, I'm already 32. And I'm all, and then like that, I only imagined like what being as put together as some of these women at their age. Like, I'm like,
very impressive, huh?
Like, yes,
no,
like
sure.
you know, and like you said, though, I think women, we all have different things that we face, you know. I mean, even the ones that are the strongest ones of the bunch, right? We still have moments where we feel less than. We still have moments where we've had a heartbreak. We've still had moments where we felt like it wasn't happening and it wasn't going to happen. And what does that look like? And how do you move forward, right? I think, but I love this space because we're able to share that. And thank you so much for coming and being so vulnerable in the space and speaking about that truth, because I know that, you know, I can say that when women look at you, we just see this amazing, beautiful soul that is just doing badass shit. And it's nice to see that, you know, when I feel that way, I can still be a badass like you.
Thank you. You're so sweet. Thank you. I so appreciate being here and being able to have a conversation with you.
Well, thank you so much. Like you said, maybe part 2 next time.
Maybe, because I have some cool things in the horizon.
Hey, so, I'm here for it. So we'll have to plan that.
Yeah, that'll be great.
But thank you guys so much for tuning in. If this conversation resonated with you, do all the things like, share, comment, invite a woman into the space that you know needs to be here. If you want to be a guest on Her Space, DM us, email us. If you know a woman that should be in this space, let us know, and we'll see you next time.